This is Let Us Interrupt You here on Friday, April 14th, 2023, as I'm not really sure if I am going live to you this second here, but that is the Donald Trump compilation video that was created by United Spot, titled "I Fought the War and I Fought the Law and the Law Won." I'm gonna say I fought the war. Trump fought no war. But that is really the idea of that theme song, because Britney Grinder sort of fought Russian law and won when she went back to America a few months ago. She actually wrote a book this week based on the Russian prison lifestyle that she had going on there while she was kept hostage for trying to smuggle drugs back into the country, which I don't know what she was thinking of not knowing the customs when doing that. And what made her do that to begin with is beyond me. Whoever talked her into doing this, which I'm trying to imagine someone talking into a 6'8", 6'10" Britney Grinder and telling her to smuggle drugs across the country. I just, I can't imagine that. It's hard enough to do that through Mexico. Never mind doing that through Russia. I mean, she took this to a whole nother extreme, just to basically just, to go through Russia with this. Okay. And I just, my thought process is that she should have never did it in the first place. She would have never been in the situation that she was in. She could blame, the country and all that stuff, Russia and all that. You kind of broke Russia law. It's a law in Russia. You can't smuggle drugs in an airport, nevertheless. I mean, you know how much tough it is for TSA at this point to freaking smuggle drugs? They can just catch you by bringing a gun to TSA. Never mind smuggling drugs, hallucinations. Who was she bringing it back for? Aaron Rodgers and Jake Paul when they get high in Peru? Is that what the whole point of that even was? I just had to mention that little tidbit there because, that happened in Peru with Jake Paul and Aaron Rodgers. Maybe that's where they got the drugs from. Maybe Aaron Rodgers got the drugs from Britney Grinder. Maybe that secret's been solved. Of where has Aaron Rodgers been getting these hallucination drugs from? She probably got it from Britney Grinder. She was trying to smuggle most of them. By the way, just to clarify this whole thing, where was the drugs after that evidence happened? Was it ever solved? Was it ever brought up? They find all these drugs and all that stuff right now, but they never really explained whether or not she really had the drugs in her possession. Were they ever planted there? A lot of people are saying they were planted there. I didn't really believe that to be for a second. It wasn't a plant on a 6'10" woman like Britney Grinder, who's a force, who I said belongs in the NBA anyway, just because the women right now can't beat her. They just can't, And I say she'll be better in the men's league just because at this point she just has that masculine attack on the court. There's no other way of justifying it at this point. I mean, if you're trying to smuggle drugs in Russia, you're too good for the WNBA at this point. Now, granted, you got caught, but I'm glad she's writing a book about it. I wanted to open up the show by saying that because that was basically the title of this episode this week, was her smuggling drugs. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it, but she should have never done it in the first place because she would have had her loved one, for one, her lover of her life, would have never been in such disarray for all these months. And think about this for a minute. All it took was really for Vladimir Putin to get sick, Joe Biden to fall up a flight of stairs into Russia. Probably those two having a meeting, and they forgot what the hell the meeting was about, and they forgot who Britney Grinder was for a minute there, and they let her go because he realized, I don't want this Russian prisoner. Now, in reality, they exchanged it for another one because in reality, he was on American soil, this one who should have been sent to Russian prison for all the heinous crimes he had done years ago. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head. That's why I refer to him as he at this point. Although it wasn't he they exchanged. They exchanged a man for a woman who might as well be at this point a man trapped in a woman's body. But in reality of it is at this point, she's a lesbian. She's all woman. That's all you need to know about Britney Grinder. And she's one of the most dominant players in the WNBA at this point, who is now going to tell her story. And I think in reality, a lot of people are going to get into her book, especially the ones who are lesbians, because they can relate. Although I don't think any lesbian that I could think of at this point would do the extreme that Britney Grinder did, which was basically try to smuggle drugs. If I ever run into a friend one day of mine who does that, I'm not banning you out of Russian prison. You're going to do your freaking time. I mean, if you're going to be dumb enough to smuggle something from Russia, of all countries to go to and do it. I mean, I can understand Mexican prison because it's not as bad as going to a Russian prison. That's worse. And Russian prisons are no joke. I've watched the videos of how they mentally torture people, and they really mentally torture people. So I can imagine and the men's were bad. I bet the women's must be 100 times worse. So, good for Britney for at this point we've had free Britney Spears. Now we have free Britney Grinder. And now we're going to have, at this point, there's too many Britneys at this point. You know what we should really call her? At this point, I can't even call her Britney. I can call her Britty G. God, that sounded terrible. That really did sound bad. Now that I said that now, it sounds awful. It sounds awful that I just said that out loud. There is a lot of news to get into today, though, outside of the spectrum here, which is the other news that really came out today. WEEI Sports Radio closing their Rhode Island office. I heard this announcement last night, and I had, I was going to name this "Thank You WEEI" in work for all you've done, because in reality, they were a nice little sports radio station that's right down the street from my house, which I didn't even know at the time it was located like 5 minutes away. I started to learn this, and I was actually applying for the job there last year. Had I not been going to EB at this point, I'd probably be working there doing a night show with Adam Jones right now at this point. I'd be on my way to the studio right now and preparing for what I would be talking about for the show. And I'm an early bird too. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't want to stay home all freaking day and all freaking night. I got to be out of the house. I get too cooped up very easily. So, I'm kind of glad I'm going to be out of the house this weekend anyway. So it'll make me happy. But the fact that they're closing their offices down is kind of terrible. The fact that no one even tried to even fight this, because there are people out there who want to go on a radio station. You got one that's right down the street from here, near Jefferson Boulevard, right near the train station. I mean, if you're going to go right to a Patriot game, you got the train station right there. Although now I'm not even sure they're running it out of Jefferson Boulevard anymore. They're probably running it out of Providence. But you kind of get the gist of it at this point. Everything was so convenient. You got radio hosts who do the shows down, in that little office down there, Rhode Island, off of Kilbert Street. And now you just got to basically abandon the office altogether. The fact that they were closing down this office at this point and let all these employees know, think about this for a minute. They were all 5 minutes away. Now you expect these people to drive up to Massachusetts in that rush hour traffic. I mean, I don't know how you justify that. I feel bad for the employees that work there. Could you imagine me if I just luckily I had the job at EB, because if I would have had this job at although I would have found a way to travel there. Now the more I even think about it. But it does suck for the employees that work there. It really does. And to be fair, the ratings have been trashy as of late anyway. I got to be honest at this point. WEEI really got bad when they had all the show changes, and they had although Adam Jones, Mango, and Christian Arcan kind of saved that show. I think in reality, kind of saved the WEEI sports radio as much as they could. Andy Gresham and Christian Fiore on there on the middays. Those are good. Those are fine. It's just the other shows they used to have, like they used to have, what was the other guy's name? I can't think of the guy's name now. The morning people that were on there, they were good. The Greg Hill show, I can do without. I could have done a nice morning show by myself, doing all these hot takes like I do right here, and let us interrupt you. See, I don't even need anybody else. I can do a hot take right here on this podcast right now, and people will be like, wow, this kid's got an opinion. Really good one. But for the fact that that office is being moved, it's just kind of aggravating now. Because now at this point, I'm gonna think back on this, and I'm gonna say, man, they really could get that radio station right there, because that would have been a really good convenient spot. Really good convenient spot. I'll get into more of the other stories on here in just a bit. I got to talk about the Red Sox this week. They got swept. For many of you that didn't even know this, they got swept this week by the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are now undefeated, by the way, just FYI. They are undefeated. They're 13-0. They absolutely smashed the Red Sox in the mouth. And I did call this. I don't know if anybody watched my show on Tuesday, but I did call this was going to be a possibility, which was the reality of it was the Red Sox were going to get swept. They were going to get kicked in the face. And that's exactly what happened. Now they're 5-8 at this point. They're in dead last right now in the American League East. They're hanging on by a thread as they're playing the Los Angeles Angels tonight here on Apple TV. Before I get into the rundown for the Friday games, let's get the score from Thursday games because I'm not going to be the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday version of it. Although it'd be nice if I did. The problem is I don't have that much energy today. Tampa Bay beat the Red Sox yesterday 9-3. Orioles beat the Athletics 8-7. The Orioles, by the way, I believe swept the A's as well. I don't think the A's won one game in their series at all. So that's that. The other thing is the Reds beat the Phillies 6-2. Twins beat the Yankees last night and started their series out 11-2. The Yankees, by the way, this week, I don't know if anybody really realized this, but they won 2 out of 3 against the Orioles last weekend. And then they came into this series after they just, they won 2 out of 3 against the Cleveland Guardians. So that's that. Let's see what else happened here. The Twins are now 9-4, by the way. The Tigers beat the Blue Jays. They avoided a sweep, I believe. The Blue Jays took 3 out of 4 in that series. The Tigers won 3-1. Pirates shut out the Cardinals 5-0 yesterday. Brewers beat the Padres in San Diego 4-3. Pirates are looking interesting. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros. Last night, though, got the win over the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals, by the way, not that good this year. They're 5-8 to start off the year as well. Here are your Friday games. You got Angels, Red Sox on tonight. You got Cubs, Dodgers on tonight. You got Giants, Tigers on tonight. Diamondbacks and Marlins. Phillies and Reds, which that's the start of their 4-game series. Guardians are at the Nationals tonight. The Twins are at the Yankees. The Rays are at the Blue Jays. Orioles are at the White Sox. The Braves are at the Royals. Rangers are at the Astros. Pirates are at the Cardinals. Mets are at the Athletics. Brewers are at the Padres. And the Colorado Rockies are in Seattle tonight to take on the Mariners. If I had to predict all these games in the series so far, I'd say the Brewers even it up with the Padres at 2-2. Padres take games 2 and 3 tonight of that series, and Milwaukee wins the finale on Sunday. I think Mariners sweep the Rockies. I don't know what it is. I just have a funny feeling Colorado's not going to win a single game in this series. The Mets are going to sweep the A's. The A's suck. They're tanking. They don't care about the season at all. Pirates are going to take 2 out of 3. I think St. Louis wins the final game on Sunday. The Astros are beating the Rangers in this series, I think. I think they take 2 out of 3. And when Houston goes to Texas, I think Texas sweeps them. I do. I don't know what it is. I don't want to lose hope yet on Houston this year. I think they're too good right now to be starting off this crappy. Braves are going to sweep the Royals. The Royals suck. Orioles beat the White Sox 2 out of 3, I think. I think even in Chicago, it really won't matter. Rays are going to sweep the Blue Jays. The Rays are just too good. I can see this team starting out the year 16-0. I really can. The way they smashed the Red Sox, and that team is an underrated team. I don't think they're overrated by any leaps and bounds at this point. This is their first true testament tonight in Toronto to take out this team, and I think they're going to do it. You got Twins, Yankees. I think Twins even it up at 2-2. I do. Even though the Yankees lost last night 11. It was 9-0 at the end of the first inning of this game last night. 9-0. They absolutely smashed the Yankees last night. The Yankees are a lot better than what their record says. But I think it's going to be an even series. Guardians are going to beat the Nationals in a sweep. Reds are going to sweep the Phillies. I don't know what it is. I just have a weird feeling the Phillies are not going to win a single game in that series. I just don't think they are. Diamondbacks are going to beat the Marlins in a sweep. Giants are going to win 2 out of 3 against Detroit. The Cubs, I think, are going to take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. I don't know what it is. I feel like the Cubs at this point are starting to open up. They might open up a can of whoop ass in the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers are starting out really crappy here. I really think they are. I don't know what's going on with them, but they're not focused right now at this point. The Red Sox and the Angels, it's tough. I want to say the Angels take this series, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced they're that good. So I'm going to say Red Sox take 2 out of 3. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's the way I see it. Been a lot of crazy stuff going on in baseball this week, especially with Jacob DeGrom. Jacob DeGrom apparently broke a Nolan Ryan record by not really doing anything, only really winning 1 start, not losing any starts at all, and having a bunch of no decisions. So that's that. Webb, by the way, for the Giants, Logan Webb got a $90 million extension. He signed through 2020 and a 5-year deal. So that was good news for the baseball gods right now for the Giants. Really, is that the Giants got what they want. AJ Hinch this week pulled Javier Baez pulled as a message to the team. I guess he was not knowing how many outs there were in the inning. Javier Baez just does not want to be in Detroit. He's only there for the money. Javier Baez just does not care about this season for the Tigers. He does not care. He's here to collect his money for the next few years and going to go somewhere else. Javier Baez at this point just doesn't care about playing for really anybody that's good. I don't think he does. I think he's just another Kyrie Irving at this point. I don't think he's bad as Kyrie Irving, but he's getting to that level. Does not care. Javier Baez might get traded during the season this year, too. I wouldn't be surprised if Javier Baez would get traded to some team like Tampa Bay, maybe. Or maybe he gets traded back to Chicago, play for the Cubs, or maybe he goes for the Dodgers, shoot, at this point. Go for the Red Sox. A lot of problems with that Red Sox team. Bryce Harper on his way back from surgery. He'll be taking reps as first base because the plan is put him at first base. I don't know if that helps the Philadelphia Phillies at this point. I don't know why they're doing this. This does not make any sense at all whatsoever. It's probably the dumbest thing they could do. Let's put this guy at first base. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it'd be an interesting story. The guy goes from an outfielder to a first baseman. I don't think this lasts, though. I don't. And if this lasts throughout the entire season, and he's mainly at first base and he's in the outfield once in a while, I mean, what does that do for Bryce Harper? I mean, it's not like the guy is injured because he was playing in the outfield. It's not like he's not like he's Mike Trout. Mike Trout at this point has got a better shot at this point of being at first base because he's getting injured because he's in the outfield so much. Harper, I don't know what the story with Harper is. I don't know why they have him being at first base. Maybe because the Philadelphia Phillies stink so badly at first base. And that goes to show of having no investment behind this team. And, and the reality is the Philadelphia Phillies, they're cracking under pressure. This is a team that just came up short and winning the World Series. And a lot of people are going to look at me and they're going to say, oh, it's because of the GM they had. Look at what happened with the Red Sox when he was there. Look, I'm not even going to bother even entertaining that conversation. I'm not. All these decisions happened way before these guys got in the picture. The Bryce Harper conversation, that contract, that was extremely stupid. They should have never signed that deal the way they did it, but they were desperate. And now it's coming back to bite them because now they want him at first base. And honestly, at this point, as much a star talent this Philadelphia Philly team really has, they just can't get over. They can't get over that hump. And I think that's going to be the downfall of this team is that they fired the wrong manager. Because I think Girardi was the right choice at manager in the first place. I don't know why they fired him. I don't know. Maybe he was pissing off a lot of people at this point, and maybe the players got soft. I don't know. But it's just stupid. I don't know. I just think it's dumb. I really do. I really think it's dumb at this point. Anyway, Bruins start the playoffs this weekend. So does the Boston Celtics, by the way. The Celtics play tomorrow at 3 o'clock against the Hawks. The Hawks, by the way, beat the Heat this week 116-105. The Heat, if they were to beat the Bulls tonight, because the Bulls beat the Raptors are out of the playoffs. Then the Bulls, then the Heat face off against the Bucks, and obviously the Bulls win. The Bulls will face the Bucks instead. If Miami loses out on this and misses the playoffs, I don't know if that makes Eric Spoelstra on the hot seat at this point, but at least there's a start of a conversation. I mean, I think it's too soon to start that conversation, but man, what a collapse. I don't even know if that'd be worse than the collapse that the Mavericks had this year, which, by the way, they were fined $750,000 today for that tanking thing. I'll get more into that in just a minute. Why I think that was probably the dumbest thing that Dallas could have ever done. Again, I just, it's hard to believe it's playoff weekend already. Season's almost over. We got 2 more months of basketball, then we are pretty much done. We're just stuck with baseball for the next remaining 3 months. I would say this right now. The Celtics right now, I got them winning in 6 against Atlanta. I don't know what it is. Atlanta always makes this an interesting series. I think even with the Trae Young trade rumors at this point, it may be possible here. And Trae Young, by the way, actually, I had something to say about those trade rumors, which were brought up this week, by the way. Trae Young brought these up. And this is what he had to say about the could be false, could be true. honestly, at this point, it's more of a distraction to the Atlanta Hawk Nation than anything else. And I think he's just trying to say, look, it could be false, could be true. I just want to play basketball. Like that's his prerogative at this point in this postseason right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Trae Young was traded. That's just my opinion. I don't think it would surprise me one bit that if Trae Young were to be traded. It'd be interesting to see what the Hawks do with this one here this weekend. I mean, they had this pivotal game 1. I think game 2 might be on Sunday, and game 3 is on Tuesday. I'm not 100% sure on that scheduling just yet, but I'll get back to you on that one as soon as possible. That one. That's gonna be an interesting series. You got the Bruins. We're gonna be taking on the Florida Panthers. They had a great week this week, beating up the. They had the victory over the Florida Panthers at home. They had a victory over the. Oh God, I've been trying to figure it out all week at this point of what their schedules look like this week. Just trying to look into it now. I just drew a blank right now who they're gonna be playing. As they finished the year with 65 wins and 12 losses, or was it 12 losses and 5 overtime losses? I think that's what it was. Yeah. They beat the Capitals this week. They beat the Canadiens this week. They play game 1 on the 17th, which is on. And it's not even this weekend. It's actually on. Is it Tuesday? Is it Monday? It is Monday. So Monday, Tuesday's podcast will be basically covering Celtics and Florida Panthers. If the Red Sox lose this week, then the Los Angeles Angels are to sweep. I'm not going to cover them at all. Just going to call it right now. This will be all about the. Although at this point, I think if the Red Sox do win, let's say they win their series. Let's say they take 2 out of 3. I'll cover them if I want to. This is all up to me. If the Red Sox win the series against the Angels, I'll cover the Red Sox along with this whole thing too. But otherwise, this might just be about the Bruins and I'm trying to blank the Celtics playoff series. Sorry, it's kind of hard to concentrate when you're sweating your butt off out here and you're doing this podcast at this point. I actually have to crack open the window so I can actually breathe. Imagine that, it's 88 degrees in April. Think about that, it's 88 degrees here in Rhode Island. Something's very wrong with that picture. Bruins had a great week this week. They scored the most points in the history of the NHL with 135 points, most ever. They broke the Montreal Canadiens 1977 record, which stood at 132 points scored. Which that Canadian team was a dynamite team. It really was. And I think realistically, if you put those players in their prime with the equipment that we have, they would kick our asses. Their equipment as well, I don't think it would work as much. But if you give them our equipment, they would kick our asses. They would. The hockey that we play today, especially in professional league, they just don't go at it anymore. It's not a lot of fights. There's a lot of KO knockouts, and it's a rarity because it doesn't happen every game. But it's that's the thing with hockey. Monday instead. And I am getting an ad right now that I don't want to get right now on my computer. That was not what I wanted there at that moment. Anyway, so I just got that news. But the Celtics this weekend are playing tomorrow at 3:00 in the TD Garden in front of their fans. Tickets are on sale now for this game, by the way. Game 1, I think game 1 and 2 are on this weekend. I'm not 100% accurate on this weekend in general. But tonight is the Thunder and Timberwolves playoff play. And by the way, Rudy Gobert is suspended for punching his teammate for 1 game. He is out for tonight's game. I think Oklahoma City wins. I really do. I don't see how the Timberwolves really have a shot in this whole thing. I think the Thunder become the 8th seed here, and they're the ones that end up facing the Dallas Mavericks. And I don't know who. And honestly, that's a toss-up who wins that series. Because the Thunder, you never know with them. Nobody expected this team this year to get at 40 wins at all without Chet Holmgren this year, that big center from Gonzaga. You know what ended up happening? I guarantee this right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if Drew Time was reunited with his best buddy, Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga. If the NBA draft were to happen this year, that really wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, this is what the Saturday edition looks like for the playoffs. You got the East first round, and the game's actually on at 3:30, so they actually have an hour pregame. That's great. The Celtics are at home against the Hawks. You got the Warriors at the Kings. The Nets are at the 76ers. The Knicks are at the Cavs. That is the game one for the East first round in the playoffs for that game. Sunday, Clippers Suns are on at 8 o'clock on TNT. You got Lakers Grizzlies on at 3 o'clock on ABC. The Bucks, who are probably going to end up facing the Bulls or the Heat, will be on Sunday at 5:30. And the Nuggets will probably be playing the Thunder or the Timberwolves. That's on at 10:30. That's the game one of that series. Game two will be on Tuesday. So I'll be able to do the game one review and won't have to worry about interfering with game two. Because game two will be on that Tuesday, the 18th at 7 o'clock at night. You got Clippers Suns on at 10 o'clock. And Knicks Cavaliers on at 7:30. I don't know how they're doing this. How this game? I mean, I can see why they put on NBA TV because the Celtics copyright. They got the first round of playoffs every time anyway. Here's how I think the series is going to go, though. Boston wins the first two games. The Hawks win the next two games. Game 5 goes back to Boston. Boston wins game 3. Atlanta loses game 6 at home. That's how I think this plays out. I do. And the reason I say this is because sometimes it's always happens with number one seeds. Although in this case, the Celtics are number 2 seed at this point. So, and if the Heat beat the Bulls and they had to play the Bucks, I think the Heat lose in 5 games. If it's the Bulls, this might be a tougher series. This might be a very tough series if you kind of think about it from that perspective. That I actually truly believe will happen, one way or the other. So, I gotta say the Celtics win in 6 games here. The Bucks are gonna sweep, or win in 5. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. See, this is what happens when you try to do a podcast in the summertime here. Even though technically it's not summertime, you can't really concentrate. And you also got people who are trying to message me on this podcast in the middle of a live stream, and it doesn't work. Anyway, Knicks Cavs in this series, I want to see the Knicks advance. The Knicks are a really hot team at this point. They're going to get Randall back. They are too big in size. And when it really comes down to it, when it's Garland and Mitchell, and 90% of the time it's Mitchell more than Garland, and it's sometimes the other way around, it's never a consistent unit. And I've seen it a lot this year with Cleveland, mostly with that. If it's Mitchell that's had a big night, Garland doesn't do much. If Garland has a big night, then Mitchell doesn't do much. It's Utah Jazz 2.0 in Cleveland. And that's what's hurting this team. Sorry, I just heard a buzz. I heard a bee. But yeah, I don't envy that matchup at all. As far as the Clippers Suns series, the Suns take this in 6. I don't think Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers really have a shot here. Russell Westbrook said there's no beef between Kevin Durant and him anymore. They just moved on. They're getting ready for the playoff series. That stuff ended in 2016, that beef. Because when you think about the Thunder and the Warriors in that series, that rivalry, that everything changed after that 1 year of Kevin Durant not being part of that Oklahoma City Thunder team anymore. Everything changed. The Warriors were the best team in the NBA. No one could beat them. They practically laughed in everybody else's face in the West. They made the West look like complete buffoons. There was only 2 teams that were really good. That was it. The Thunder really wanted everybody to believe they were good until they weren't. They got exposed in the first round of the playoffs. They lost every time in 5 games. 5 games. It was never 4. It was never 6 or 7. No, 5 games. They were lucky to even win game 3 or game 4. Then ultimately lose game 5. And that's with Paul George on the team or Carmelo Anthony. Think about that for a minute. By the way, Carmelo Anthony was asked by Kevin Durant to join the team so he would have an easier time to win a ring. Which, if Carmelo Anthony is just a bench warmer at this point and just a body, that might be the easiest win of his career because Carmelo Anthony's got nothing left in the tank. Just be a bench warmer and move on. That's it. That's my thought. That's my thought process on this week. I just think that whole thing is ridiculous at this point, that they even suggested this. The Nuggets, I think, against the Thunder, it might go to 6 games. It might not. I think if it's the Timberwolves, I think the Timberwolves get swept. I don't see how Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns on the same floor, same time, make any bit of a difference. I don't think they do. Anyway, I had a thought this week. Zion Williams has become the most hated player for the New Orleans Pelicans. It's too bad they didn't have a playoff run this year. I think deep down he wants out of this team. He wants the money, but he wants to be, he wants to be playing for somebody else at the same time. The guy says he'll play when he's ready. That made me hate this guy and even more than I already did. That's the sad part about the whole thing. It played out this way, and I hated that. I really did. So, anyway, so here's some NFL news this week. Or actually, I'm actually sorry if I'm saying this one this week. This might be NFL news. It's more an NBA story right now. Shaquille O'Neal says Angel Reese, not Joe Burrow, is the greatest athlete of all time from LSU. Angel Reese, nobody even knew who she was all year. Nobody had a clue what she did. Nobody had a clue what she was doing. Nobody knew her story. Joe Burrow was more of a well-known story, and he wasn't even at LSU than Angel Reese was. For a game where nobody watched, nobody paid attention until after the fact that she did a post game, she basically did the catch me outside girl. How about that? Basically bull crap, and got herself noticed. She has no class. She's a sore winner. Nobody there takes her seriously at all. I would not take this girl seriously 1 second as an athlete. I don't. She's going to be like one of those people at this point who, try to do way too much in the WNBA, and either she might be a bust or she might be halfway decent. Mm-hmm. Either way, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. No matter how you look at it, it just does not matter. It doesn't. She has no class. And what she did to Caitlin Clark and just basically diss her like that and acted like she was in a nightclub somewhere up in Providence, probably Coliseum to be exact. To basically do that to someone like Caitlin Clark with class, I just think to myself, man, she really does not care. She just does not care at this point about this chick. Basically showed her up, embarrassed her. No, I know why Shaq likes it. Because Shaq would have done the exact same thing. Although the only difference is that it's in his nature, Shaq. I get it. If this is Angel Reese's attempt to try to become Shaquille O'Neal, just don't. Just don't. Don't be that girl. You don't have it in you to be the next Shaquille O'Neal. You don't. I'm sorry, you don't. So stop wasting people's time with that stuff. It really is bizarre at this point, and it's sad, really, for someone to do that already at this point. Can we transfer her to a Russian prison instead of Britney Grinder? Can we do that instead? The idea that, what Angel Reese really is? She's a Ben Simmons. The only difference is that she can stay on the floor long enough and actually wants to play. She's got the Shaq mentality of playing basketball and not knowing when to quit. Joe Burrow was more relevant in his time in LSU, and it even was for 1 year, maybe even for a couple of years, was more relevant with the LSU Tigers than Angel Reese was that entire weekend of the NCAA championship, which, by the way, nobody watched. Nobody cared. The males are more with that program than anything else. I just think that whole thing is just asinine. It just really is. I really can't believe it that we've gotten to this degree at this point. I don't know. I just realized I didn't even make my prediction right now for the Bruins playoff series against the Panthers. I got the Panthers being swept, by the way. Just FYI. Completely forgot about giving my predictions for that series. I think they faced the winner of the Rangers Devils. I actually have the playoff format for the NHL. If I can just pull it up here. There we go. So here's a playoff update, standings, and matchups now going forward. And this is confirmed playoff matchups. So the Bruins, okay, let's see. Is it going to show me the playoff matchups here or no? Penguins, by the way, got eliminated from playoff contention. So I guess, I don't know if they're going to show me the playoff matchups or not. April 17th. So here we go. Here's your playoff matchups. We have Florida at the Boston Bruins. We have the LA Kings at the Oilers. We have the Islanders at the Carolina Hurricanes. And that's here for 17th matchup here. On the 18th, Rangers Devils in New Jersey. Winnipeg of Las Vegas. And you got Tampa Bay in Toronto. Toronto, I think, is going to get revenge here. They're going to probably win that series against Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay might be out in 6. It might be out in 5 games. I think this ends up going back to Toronto. Toronto's going to win a series for the first time this year. This is their year to do it. Devils and Rangers, I think that goes to 7 games. You're going to see a 7-game clash between these two teams. I would not be surprised if there was an upset, though, with the Devils at this point. Because I had the Devils in the beginning of the year going to the Stanley Cup Championship at this point, depending how, or I wouldn't say beginning of the year. Hell, beginning of the year, I had Lightning and the Avalanche in a Stanley Cup rematch. I don't think that's happening. I really don't think that's happening this year. Anyway, so it doesn't look like they're showing a lot of these NHL scores here. There should be more of these games. I don't know why they're not showing a lot of them here. I haven't even seen the Dallas Star playoff matchup yet. Capitals and Penguins have 16-year streak snapped of them going to the playoffs, and they've just. I'm really surprised they haven't shown these. Let's take a look. Hold on, let me look at this for a minute. Oh, that's as far as it's going to go. I think it's the other division that would buy, I think. I don't know. It's weird because I haven't seen the Dallas Star playoff matchup yet, so I don't know what's going on there with that. That's not all of them, I don't believe. That's not all the playoff matchups here, which kind of annoys me because I think, I just had a whole playoff format how that was going to go. And I thought it would be a bracket, but they're not going to show me the bracket, I guess. That's fine, CBS Sports. That's fine. Lance Cox, by the way, going to miss the postseason. This was according to MileHighHockey.com. Captain will miss the entire season after he announced that he was will miss the playoffs through injury. It was a knee injury that he had suffered. So that's a huge loss for Colorado. That actually might be even easier for me to make this prediction, which is I think Colorado loses out in the playoff in the first game, in the first series they play, because I have a funny feeling they're in trouble. As crazy as it sounds, and I don't think all the games have been announced just yet. So, because the regular season is still going on tonight, so maybe I'll get more of an announcement before maybe on Saturday, hopefully. But the playoffs don't start until Monday, so that's actually a positive thing about this whole thing. Let's see. We got more. We got plenty of stories to get into right now. I'm not trying to be on here for that long. Jonathan Talos plans not to re-sign with the Blackhawks. That was according to a CBS Sports report. If you want my honest opinion, Jonathan Talos at this point, leaving Chicago, to me, it's the right way of looking at things. Patrick Kane was on his way out. He got traded from New York. I was stunned that Kane actually left the Chicago Blackhawks. I always said to myself, if Kane's leaving, so is Talos. And Talos has been there for a long time. Long-time center. Just a great player all the way around. It's actually amazing when you think about it, really. Just the fact that they are losing out on Talos. And Talos at this point, Talos, I think, in reality, was a great player for the Blackhawks as well. He was another key reason why the Blackhawks won a Stanley Cup. There's always a key reason why these guys win a Stanley Cup. Talos and Patrick Kane were those two reasons those Blackhawks won those cups. And Talos, you could argue right now, will probably be the hottest free agent right now in the NHL. Where I think he ends up going to, it's tough because I want to say to Colorado, because Colorado might be a really interesting team to watch in 2023. But I think he's going to go out. I think he's going to go out west. I think he's going to go east. I would not be surprised at this point if he went east. If he actually went and played with Patrick Kane one more time, but in New York City with the New York Rangers. That'd be an awesome story. Because I think it'd be Rangers Bruins in the Eastern Conference Finals every year. And you know the hatred there for New York fans in Boston. Oh. Or really even New York teams, never mind even the fans. That would be very fun to watch if Jonathan Talos ends up going there. So, so that's like I said before, this is a mixed bag today for all these series, these things here. And these are all from my newsfeed, by the way, too, so from Facebook. So I apologize that they're not in generally in good order here. But we'll get started with some Patriots news right now. This is not even in my feed, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Bailey Zappi apparently has a higher Madden rating than Mac Jones. And a lot of media stuff was stirring this week about Bailey Zappi this week. A lot of stuff that was very rare. At this point, we heard from a backup quarterback talk about, describing Mac Jones really. I really haven't heard it all week long about Bailey Zappi, but Bailey Zappi at this point getting a lot of, fans of some Zappi fever. I don't know if would they say anything this week? I guess not. I guess there's nothing. I can't get the video on it. I guess this week. I was kind of expecting a video this week on Zappi, but I guess I'm not gonna get it this week. Wasn't hitting the search on the wrong thing, but he apparently there was a lot that was discussed this week about what Zappi had said about Mac Jones. I can just look it up real quickly here. I can get the information here. Just try and bear with me for a minute here. I can get the. Here it is. If my opportunity presents itself, I'm going to take full advantage of it. So Zappi's not stacking down for Mac Jones at this point. Bailey Zappi, I think personally, will win the starting job, and here's why. As crazy as it sounds, I think Zappi's a better quarterback. I really do. I mean, I think people are overreacting after that one game against the Bears, which he was put in the lion's den. He was put in a bad situation, a bad game plan by Matt Patricia. And if we're going to judge him off of that after 1 year with this guy, then what are we talking about here? Mac Jones at this point being a nuisance to Bill Belichick is not helping the Patriots win games. It's not doing it. This is Bailey Zappi's underdog story, as far as I'm concerned. He's not going to make it with the Patriots. They'll release him and get caught, blah, blah, blah. I always thought Zappi would be, going to Seattle with Seattle Seahawks and being with someone like Matt Patricia as a head coach. And then I thought to myself, he did kind of botch it in Detroit. He certainly botched with Mac Jones and Zappi. As much as we want to give this guy Zappi fever, really in reality, if we're going to really be realistic here, Troy Brown was more of an offensive coordinator for Matt Patricia when the Patriots won games. I hate to say it. All those losses were all on Judge and Patricia combined. They were. So much confusion. Troy Brown, the veteran that was there long enough in the coaching staff, knows the system better than Patricia and Judge know it combined. I'm just being realistic here. I think there were some days where you look at these Patriot games and you think to yourself, is Joe Judge really making these calls? Is Matt Patricia really making these calls? When they win. I'm just looking at it in general, when they win. So I just think to myself that if Zappi's going to take a full advantage of the starting job and try to get a starting kick here, go for it. I think he's got a shot at doing it. I think he really does. Anyway, we got some more news this week. Interesting stuff that's been going on. Trace McSorley got signed by the Patriots this week as well. Oh, I just lost myself on the camera. Maybe some of you are seeing me on the picture right now. At this point, I am not seeing myself, apparently. For whatever reason, my computer just decided to do this at this point, which I think this has more to do with the fact that my I don't know why I won't let me close out of here. I was close out of the wrong webpage. That would be bad. But Trace McSorley, the third string quarterback now that was on the Cardinals, is now with the New England Patriots. All I got to say about this one is that it's Brian Hoyer 2.0. That's really about it. That's all this guy really is. There's another Brian Hoyer. Well, the Commanders were sold this week to the Josh Harris group that involved Magic Johnson for $6.5 billion. It's official. The Snyder family are completely out of Washington. And all I got to say to that is thank God. The less I can say about that family, the better. I wasn't going to go on a rant about this, but I'm not trying to stay on here for 2 hours today. So I'll just keep it at that. Thank God they're out of there. Of all the embarrassing stuff that they put these fans through for years and not giving a damn and being Jerry Jones's bitch, which is really what he really was Jerry Jones's bitch. I'm glad he's gone. There's no other way of saying it. I'm glad this guy is out of here. Russell Wilson this week made reps this week with the team. He's the only guy that showed up. Beat the entire work staff, believe it or not, working out at 4:30 in the morning. The rest of the staff showed up at 5:30. He must have been saying to himself, Broncos country, let's ride, before he's starting to throw. I can actually imagine that, actually. That's the scary part about the whole thing. Ironically, I found this story that just, according to Newsweek, shook their brains, quote unquote. It actually made my brain turn to mush because of the idea of it actually would have made more sense than him going to Denver. But Russell Wilson almost became a Philadelphia Eagle last year. The trade almost happened, a move that had insiders convinced. I honestly would have looked at it and said to myself, this would have been an easier win for Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Because Russell Wilson somehow would have choked this up badly. Probably a lot worse than what he did most of the year last year with the Broncos. As bad as Wilson's season was with Denver at this point, most was on Nathaniel Hackett too at coaching. He's not a good head coach. He's nowhere close. But this would have been an easier win for Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. This would have been like a field day with Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson would have been the biggest loser in this whole thing. Because when you got a guy who's starting to slow down at like the worst time possible, it's not a good thing. His legs are not the same. He just had to get his knee scoped, so you know it's definitely not gonna be the same after that. Even when it's scoped, I mean it's minor surgery, but the guy's aging. He's not as mobile as he used to be. You know, he's not gonna be that quick out of the pocket anymore. He was slower, and he was slower this past season in Denver. That tells all the story that you need to know about Russell Wilson. He was a lot slower than Aaron Rodgers and Brady were this year too. Think about that for a minute. But anyway, that's a story. Also, another story about this Commander sale thing is Matthew McConaughey. I don't know, in the mix in this whole thing as a minority owner. I think he might be in the mix with Josh Harris and Magic Johnson. I think his name was brought up at some points in that group with Josh Harris, so I'm not 100% sure on that. Let's see. Odell Beckham Jr. is making a pitch for Lamar Jackson to stay in Baltimore. And GM says they only look at him as quarterback number one. I think Lamar Jackson at this point is trying to say that he doesn't want to be in Baltimore anymore unless Huntley's gone and not a threat to take his job, which Huntley's not really a threat to take anybody's job. But he's not convinced of that. Maybe that's what the problem is with Lamar Jackson is. Maybe because of Tyler Huntley being on this team, maybe he's not playing as good. I don't know. I'm not trying to make excuses for Lamar Jackson, but I just think he's a dope when he says the dumbest things sometimes. Jim Nantz saying, why is everyone back? Why is everybody surprised about Romo and his broadcasting abilities back in September? I was hearing all about it in January, basically mentioning about the fact that he needed counseling and all that stuff right now. And it's like, why is all the stories didn't come out in September or October, November, December? They come out in January. And Nance is right about that too. And Romo's shtick at this point is getting old. I get it. But the idea, the whole CBS thing, trying to counsel him, give him therapy. I think myself, for what? For not taking his time with the announcing, but doing good on the golf course. I bet the guy was watching old clips of himself broadcasting to see how he can be better, what he can change while on the golf course. Hell, I listen to podcasts and play music on my phone when I'm at the golf course. So it makes no difference to me. I can't stand all the jealousy. That's all this is. It's all pure jealousy. Now, heading back to Lamar Jackson's story. Roethlisberger offered critiques of Lamar Jackson's game. you don't really fear the accuracy all the time. This is what he basically had said, calling out Lamar Jackson at this point. He's basically saying you don't really fear the throwing, you fear more the legs. Which honestly, at this point, Ben's right. I mean, Lamar's not that accurate of a thrower, but he is a threat with his feet. He can take off at any time. So that would not be surprising at this point if that were to happen. Jerry Stackhouse being connected to an NBA job. This is according to Newsbreak at this point. Former Vanderbilt head coach, and I think he's currently might be looking in a role right now for Detroit Pistons at this point. Former North Carolina standout and a current Vanderbilt head coach. This is according to Eric Bosey for 24/7 Sports. Current Vanderbilt head coach Jerry Stackhouse is named. That keeps coming up as a possible replacement for the Detroit Pistons job. With Dwayne Cassie moving from the sidelines to the front office in Detroit, there appears to be some legitimate smoke to the fire. Post quote. That's according to USA Today. If Jerry Stackhouse wants a job for Detroit, all I got to say is good luck to you, because your job title is not going to last as long. Although Dwayne Cassie was there for a very long time in Detroit. And I mean a very, very, very long time, where it got to the point where I think he was just there just to watch his team tank every year. And if that's what the new current plan is at this point, to watch his team tank every year with a different head coach and a different name that nobody thought of in such a long period of time, go for it. They're not going to go anywhere if they do it like that. But if that's what you want to do, then do it. I don't know. I just think it's kind of stupid at this point. They're going to actually go through with that. Go through with that notion. I don't know. I just think the whole thing is just dumb. There was a rumor this week going on about Chase Young possibly being traded to the Indianapolis Colts for the pick the Colts would have at quarterback, which if that were the case, then it'd either be C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or whoever. Maybe Will Levis. Maybe Anthony Richardson goes to Washington. I think realistically, if the Colts are that stupid enough to trade for Chase Young to get their first round overall draft pick here, then that's a dumb move on their part, and they're never going to win because they're going to be stuck with guarding Minshew at quarterback. Unless they get Malik Cunningham in draft and they go with him at quarterback, that's the only thing I can come up with. Is they give this first round draft pick for Malik Cunningham in the next round and Chase Young. If they want to go through with it, fine. I think it'd be a dumb idea. I think it'd be a waste of time. But it would make that Colt defense scarier with Kwity Paye, Zay Franklin. You can't say Bobby O'Core anymore because he's with the Giants now. And I guess Chase Young would be replacing him. But the only difference is that, do I see him going from defensive end to linebacker in that transition? No, I don't. I think it'd be a mistake if they did. Speaking of Malik Cunningham, the Patriots are showing interest in the sleeper quarterback in the draft. They're saying Malik Cunningham is a sleeper in this draft, which I think he is. You know, he got a raw deal with the Louisville Cardinals the last few years. Just having no talent to throw to, really. Team struggling half the time. He got his stats a little bit better in the last couple of years, but it hasn't really worked out for him. So I wouldn't be surprised if this guy was a second round or a third round pick. Do I think he goes to New England? No. I think he either goes to the Arizona Cardinals, and I always say that because Kyler Murray's days at starting quarterback, I think, are numbered at this point. I think they are. I think Kyler Murray's contract days, is him being a high-paid quarterback, might be numbered as well. I think the Cardinals are looking at options at this point at quarterback. I think the Raiders are looking at options at quarterback. The Raiders could take him. The Titans could take him, although they have Malik Willis. Although, let's be honest, how long is that going to last? The Green Bay Packers could take him. And even, and I'm going to just entertain this just for the hell of it, the Dallas Cowboys. What do you got to lose at this point? If Dak Prescott gets injured again, which he's going to be, because that's like the story now at this point, is that Dak Prescott has Rob Gronkowski's injury rate of being constantly injured all the time because he's fragile. So I don't believe Cunningham could be the next Dallas Cowboy quarterback. That could be possible. Because Stroud and the whole Cowboy rumor just died a death. At least with this would be entertaining. Bud Dupree signed a 1-year, $5 million deal to play with the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know why I just called them the Atlanta Hawks at this point, but this goes to show right now of how tired I really am. And I should have a teleprompter that works on my laptop, but in reality, it doesn't. It's so hot in here, by the way. Just to clarify this, I hope to God I get a house someday with central air because this sucks. Let me try that again. Bud Dupree signed a 1-year deal, $5 million to go play with the Atlanta Falcons. That's better. Oh my God. It's just brutal in here. Brutally hot in this room. It really is. Let's see. We got some, let's see. Penguins fire the GM, Ron Hextall, President Brian Burke, as the team's historic playoff streak comes to an end. Here's the problem I have with that firing at this point. What's that going to do with the Pittsburgh Penguins? They lose a playoff streak after 16 years, and we're just going to fire people now at this point for it? That's like the Pittsburgh Steelers firing Mike Tomlin after missing the playoffs in 2010. Or, I'm sorry, not 2010, 2009 and 10, after they won the Super Bowl. Are we really going to do that now at this point? Although Bill Cowher was forced to retire from the Pittsburgh Steelers back in 2006, so who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? Gerald McCoy, 6-time Pro Bowler, announced his retirement today from the NFL. Becomes a rare NFL player to join this unlucky, I didn't even read this part of the whole story right now, unlucky postseason list. After spending 11 seasons in the NFL, veteran defensive tackle Gerald McCoy has decided to hang up his cleats for good. Took to social media on Friday to officially announce his retirement. Impressive career that saw him dominate in the NFL while playing 9 of his 11 seasons with Tampa Bay. McCoy ended up with the Buccaneers in 2010 after the team made him the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. It's not easy to live up to hype. I think he's the 4th highest sack leader in 9 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 9 years. 6 Pro Bowl nods, 3rd most in franchise history, trailing Brooks at 11 and Warren Sapp at 7. At this time with Tampa Bay following the 2018 season, McCoy headed to Carolina for a year, although he had an impressive season with the Panthers that included 5 sacks. McCoy dealt with injury issues and only played 1 game in 2019 the following season. McCoy did sign the Cowboys in 2020, but never got to play it down because he was ruptured his quad. And he played got injured in 2021, and he spent the 2022 season as a free agent. Gerald McCoy should have retired as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He retired as a guy that basically was Jerry Jones's partner in crime when sitting up there, bad-mouthing about the protesting the national anthem and getting called out for it and then changing his tune. That's what McCoy's time was like in Dallas. The guy was a force in Tampa Bay. How he was never part of that Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense in 2020, but he basically spent his time with the Cowboys, with the Raiders, is beyond me. If McCoy was in better shape and actually worked out more, he probably would have been with the team a lot longer. But he took the Warren Sapp routine, got himself fat, got himself out of shape to the point where he couldn't even play. So I think it's going to affect his chances in the Pro Bowl. I really do. Or in the Pro Bowl, in the Hall of Fame. God, I am messing up a lot today. I don't mean it, but it's just hot in this room. Viking GM not committing to a future with Dalvin Cook and Zadarius Smith, saying conversations are ongoing. Zadarius Smith might be traded. So is Dalvin Cook. They might be on the move at this point. And it's kind of disappointing because you think there'd be a better story at this point with Dalvin Cook. I said before, and I'll say it again. Dalvin Cook is Miami bound. If he's not Miami Dolphin bound by the NFL draft, I don't know where he ends up going. And Zadarius Smith, I think he ends up going back to Green Bay. If not back to Green Bay, I'd say he goes to the Bills. You need a defensive presence anyway. They already got Shaq Lawson back there, but I just think that's not going to last. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Darius Smith was traded at the trade deadline. Minnesota trades into Buffalo. They get back Lawson, a couple of draft picks in the whole thing. Wouldn't surprise me. Really wouldn't. Providence guard Jared Bynum might be on a transfer portal list at this point. It's not been made official yet, but the Pittsburgh Panthers are interested in acquiring him in that transfer move. So that would be interesting if he were to get transferred there. I think he ends up getting transferred out of PC. I think the days of him being there are numbered. I think Kim English being a coach at this point of this team is what the problem is. They lost Ed Cooley. But here's another factor in this whole thing. I think Jared Bynum goes to Georgetown. And another thing is I think at this point, and if you kind of think about why he ends up going there, there's more of a connection with Ed Cooley there. Bynum could help that team out a hell of a lot more. He really could. There is more belief in that system there. There really is. UConn and Georgetown would be an interesting storyline anyway. Hurley versus Cooley. Basically was Bryce Hopkins, who I don't know if he's entering the NBA draft. I think he might be already. But the idea of him being transferred again to Georgetown, that'd be another story as well. I don't think he is now. I think he's a senior. Boy, I'm messing up a lot tonight, man. Ooh, it is hot in here. Hot. Anyway, Rockets reportedly interviewing three-time NBA champion, three-time NBA head coaching champion, Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell, I think, is realistically the best candidate for this job, but he's in Rockets. The problem is that are the Rockets going to be contending? That's the question. Are they going to be good? Are they going to get some veteran players in there to help out the up-and-coming rookie talent? I don't know. There's a lot of doubt there in my mind. Sam Cassell could also go to the San Antonio Spurs. There's a lot there to rev up at this point. The idea of Sam Cassell going to the Rockets to me, it's meh. Is it possible at this point? I don't know. I think Sam Cassell, I think it would be a perfect candidate, I think, for the Piston job, I think. Stackhouse, I think, realistically could go to Dallas. Or actually, wait a minute. What did I just say? Oh, yeah, Stackhouse. Yeah, that's right. Stackhouse could go to Dallas because I think Jason Kidd's on his way out the door. You know about reuniting with Mark Cuban? That'd be one hell of a story. Cassell goes to Detroit. Ime Udoka goes to Toronto. Let's see. Griffin goes to Charlotte, maybe, for the Hornets. And if they end up firing their head coach, which who knows at this point if they do. Michael Jordan's selling the team anyway, so it doesn't really matter to him. Let's see. Trying to think here. We got some breaking news. Capitals head coach Peter Lavoltlet have agreed to mutually part ways, so he has been removed as Capitals head coach. That is some breaking news, and this is just in as well. Charles Lee, the Bucks assistant head coach, going to be interviewed for the head coaching job for Detroit. Two breaking news in a row, and we also got Miles Bridges suspended for 30 games after pleading no contest to a domestic violence. 20 games already served. There you go. So he has, I guess he's getting another 30 games, I guess. Which, let me just put this in perspective for a minute. The guy pleads no contest to a domestic violence, right? No contest. The case is basically, I believe it's dropped. Not 100% accurate on that whole thing, but I believe it's dropped. He's missed most of the season because of this situation. He's already served 20 games already served for the suspension. They just added another 30 games to this kid for next season. Why, I don't know. Because he pleaded not guilty to this whole thing? Because the NBA is trying to pine over for women viewers? I mean, that's the only thing I could come up with. But if that's the reason for it at this point, and it's not because of him learning his lesson, then people should have a really good hard look at the NBA commissioner and the rest of the owners in the NBA. Although, let's be honest at this point, these NBA owners at this point are just as bad as the NFL owners at this point. I don't think they're worse than the NFL owners, but they're getting there. You know what would be really terrible? Would be really bad for the NBA? If Dan Snyder and Tanya Snyder bought the Charlotte Hornets, or bought that would be worse. You want to talk about spitting in the image of the basketball world, which is what Charlotte, North Carolina really is. spitting in Michael Jordan's face, spitting in the face of every NBA fan that goes to Hornet games or want to go to them. That'd be a desperate crime. That'd be worse than what the Knicks are dealing with right now at this point. If not even more than that, you know. Anyway, so this will be it for this week, for the podcast this week. I do apologize for all the mess right now. Bud Dupree, by the way, getting signed with the Atlanta Falcons for a 1 year, $5 million deal. I know I just repeated that, but if anybody mentioned, see, the problem is, the reason I'm repeating it again is because I have no way of editing this at all. I said the Atlanta Hawks, which I really don't know why I even said that. Maybe because it's so freaking warm in here. I don't know. I'm sticky. That's all I know. My whole body's sticking out. I'm like, it's like I roll around in glue. That's what I feel like this week has been. This has been a crazy week. Was supposed to get a car this week. Now I got to wait till Tuesday. Had a big giant splinter in my hand. My hand's all messed up. So I couldn't work out this week. Went to North Maine for the first time last night. The place there is nice. I didn't get a good vibe from that place. I think B4 is still number one as far as Olivia couple restaurants go. I just thought this one was lacking something. It just, I mean, for a Thursday night, 6:30 at night, I know it's a nice day. I get that. But it was not a packed crowd. It was dead. There wasn't a lot of people there. I don't know if it's just because there's too many reservations now at this point to try and get people to come in, but I've seen a lot of these things now happen now with tenancies, with reservations. I mean, you want to make a reservation, they don't follow through with it. Anyway, the reservation thing to me is crazy. People used to be lining up out the door with nice restaurants and be able to make a reservation. I feel like now at this point, no one wants to go out ever anymore. And even make the reservation, and even make the attempt to do it. This generation at this point is all based on texting and all this bull crap. It's dumb. I went there last night. The food there was good. Was great, actually. There was no vibe. There wasn't really a lot of people out last night. And for a restaurant that has all the windows open, I didn't get a good vibe. It kind of let me down. The food was great, but as far as vibes go, as far as a place that come out with, like, I guess you can go on a date with a girl, have a one-on-one date with a girl. It's nice, but I don't know. I mean, to me, it you know, if you're a single guy trying to go to a bar and trying to meet some girls there, I don't know. It didn't seem like it was that type of bar. It was couples. It wasn't filled to the gill. I mean, to me, I see more packed bars at just regular pool bars in general. I don't know. That could just be me. There's a lot of LGBTQ things going on over there as well. Now, I don't know if that's the reason why there weren't a lot of people in there. And people were telling me, oh, that's a new thing now. It's like, yeah, that could be the reason for it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But sometimes that could scare off a lot of people now who don't know how to act around those kind of people. And that just takes over the whole gig of it. I don't know. That's just me. Sometimes sometimes you just lose a lot of customers because of that, because there's too much LGBTQ. There's too many of those people. And maybe that's what it is. Again, I don't know. That could just be me. But I just have that feeling that's what it was. As sad as it was, I thought it was a good restaurant. I think it definitely needs more people, though. I don't know, because when I think of a restaurant that Olivia Couple has in East Greenwich, I think of something more big and authentic. And I just didn't think that place was big and authentic. I didn't think it was. I heard a lot of good things about it. I finally went there last night for the first time in a long time. First time ever going there, and it didn't settle. I couldn't settle in. Mainly because I had the injury to my hand too, which didn't help. Which, thanks a lot, by the way, my coworker Fat Fonzie, who just decided to put a freaking wooden plank through my hand. That was nice. Every time I work with that guy, I swear to God, this guy ends up hurting me. I don't know why. There was one time he stepped on my ankle. Another time he shoved me against the wall where I freaking hurt my shoulder. Another time he shut the lid to a tank door on my thumb. It was a wooden thing. but I caught my end of my thumb to it. Every time I work with this guy, I never know what I'm going to get with him. I mean, there's times where he won't assault me like that, literally. But I feel like just roundhouse kicking it at the freaking time. After he puts his hands on me, it's like, it's stupid. It gets to be annoying sometimes. It's tad bit like obnoxiously dumb. I mean, you shove a wooden plank up the thing. I'm trying to grab onto it, and you keep pushing it up, like I'm not pulling it fast enough for you. And you put a big giant freaking splinter right to my hand and went like this. May as well put the entire fucking wooden plank to my damn fucking hand. Excuse my language, but it's true. So maybe that's why I wasn't feeling it last night, but it was pretty dead. For 6:30 at night, though, I mean, there's no. I know it's a nice day. People are just getting out of work. I get it. But if people are getting out of work on a Thursday night and it's ladies' nights out, these places should be packed by 6:30, 7:30 on the dot. Especially a place like that where it's nice out, you got a breeze. And at least put some tables outside. I think the problem is the location, too. The location they put it in. They put it in with too many stores. You basically turn that place into a complex. You need to have that separate on its own street. The problem is in the location. I think that's what hurt this restaurant. If it was its own place, had its own property line, you would have gotten like B40. You would have gotten, and I think B4 is in a really crappy place as well. Where Shartner Farm is right now, where it used to be Shartner's Farms, should be that B40 restaurant. You make that into a bigger building, and you expand, and you have a longer, and you have flowers there you can pick on there at that point. You can buy some flowers right there, eat the food. It'd be a great venue. It really would be. B4 will be right there. And you got, the North Main. I get why they named it North Main, because they want it's like North Main Street and East Greenwich, but it's stupid. If you want to make it into the restaurant business, if you live a couple, here's my advice to you. Put these restaurants in better locations. That restaurant in East Greenwich should have its own freaking area in general for people to eat, because it's a decent sized restaurant, but it's not big. You don't have an outside venue where everybody can all sit outside. You're across the street from one another. I don't like that. Especially a restaurant like that, it's too nice to have that kind of issue. It really is. These restaurants should have their own freaking property. B40, the reason why I have an issue with B40's location is basically what's surrounding B40. It's not big enough. It's big enough to have it outside. You have a back venue for outside, a nicer view. Because when you want to sit outside, you're looking into the woods. If you're sitting outside, you got the main traffic on Route 2 going back and forth. You got a nice car view, but it's in Exeter. And all it's there is woods and a golf and probably 2 or 3 golf courses. That's it. If you're lucky. I think putting in Hope Valley would be a mistake too, because it's the same exact issue that you'd have in Hope Valley. But anyway, it's been a long day. I thought the overall my showing today was a little slack offish. I mean, I've been working 9 straight hours today. Actually went to work a half hour late. Didn't even have a lunch. And I did this show today after I watched a soap opera with my mom. As you can currently see, I'm in my room, which that freaking banner looks terrible. I've been trying to straighten that banner out for the last few days. It's not worked out to my advantage. I'm beyond tired at this point. I got work all weekend from 5 a.m. to 12. I would be doing a morning show on a radio station had they not decided to basically, close that venue altogether. It's weird because when I tried to apply for that job, there was rumors months back last year that they were going to be relocating. And I don't know why people weren't trying to stop it even then, because you got people who are from the Rhode Island area who are 5 minutes away. And maybe because some of the people weren't really from Rhode Island. Like, I don't believe Adam Jones is from Rhode Island. So that's why they're mainly closing. I think really they're trying to compete with 98.5 to Sports Hub. I mean, that was the first thing that popped in my head. Was they're trying to compete with 98.5 to Sports Hub. They probably want their own studio. So they figure they'll take that studio they have now. There has not been a relocation area they would plan to relocate, unless it's in the same studio that the 98.5 the Sports Hub used to be in, which is the only thing I can come up with realistically that could be a possibility. But yeah. My prediction right now this year for the NFL, though, goes like this, though. I think Malik Cunningham might be a Dallas Cowboy. It's only a matter of time before Dak Prescott loses his starting job. Elliott, I think, in my opinion, just plays really, and I want to say it's with this team because I think it's most likely going to happen. I think Elliott goes and plays for the Detroit Lions. It's either Elliott goes to Detroit. I don't know what it is. Jamal Williams was the leader of the pack there, the leading rush guy. Elliott's another big body. He can lead it in the rush, and he'll get himself back. I don't think he'll get a big time contract, but I think he's a shoo-in to go to Detroit. I think Mac Jones. I think at this point, the Lamar Jackson saga is over. The idea of him going to New England is dead. But I think Mac Jones' story right now as a starting quarterback for New England are just about numbered. I think Bailey Zappe's going for that job, and I think Bailey Zappe will be the one that takes that job for Mac Jones. I think we're entering Cam Newton phase at this point as far as him listening, him taking adversity well. Cam Newton never took adversity well, by the way, when he was in Super Bowl 50 against the Broncos, by the way. I mean, this is a guy that refused to recover his own fumble. Never went for the ball. So he was trying to play it safe. He was afraid. He choked. He beat himself in that Super Bowl. He not only got beat by Denver, but he then beat himself. Mac Jones is doing the exact same thing in his time in New England so far. Look how he got smashed in the mouth by Buffalo all year long. Buffalo Bills who had his number all year long. The turnovers, the interceptions, the dumb plays. Blaming Matt Patricia if he doesn't execute well, can't find anybody open, takes too long with the ball. Patricia, I will say right now, is blamed for most of the play calling right now, but Mac Jones' execution of it is making it seem like he just didn't want to do the play at all. So, my prediction is I think Jones gets benched for Bailey Zappe here. I think Bailey Zappe will be the one that takes that starting job. I don't see how it's not the underdog mentality story. Fourth round guy, no one believes he'll take the job. If he does, does it make it the Patriots more likely to make a playoff appearance? I don't know if it does. I don't think it makes much of a difference here. And I think DeAndre Hopkins goes to the Ravens. I can't imagine him going to Kansas City. I really can't. Because he would be taking a lot of production away from Travis Kelce. That's what I think. So I think D-Hop goes to Baltimore. I think he gets a 1-year deal with the Ravens as well. I think Lamar Jackson gets his contract that he wants at this point, which is why I think Odell and DeAndre Hopkins will both get 1-year deals. And I think the next year, Hopkins will recut his deal down a little bit to keep his guys around. And that'll be the end of the conversation. I think Odell and DeAndre, I think both DeAndre and Odell will both go out together in their retirement as Baltimore Ravens. That's my prediction. That is my guaranteed prediction that will happen in 2023, is that they're going to be long-term Raven players. Odell, I think, if people want to say he'll retire as a Giant, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I really don't. Anyway, that's another thing I didn't even cover this today. Wow, completely forgot. Speaking of the Giants, Saquon Barkley not re-signing his franchise tag deal along with Dexter Lawrence. They both skipped the reps this week. Saquon Barkley, if you want my honest opinion about Barkley, I think at this point, I think he will get traded. Where you ask? And I think this might be more telling here. And I think the Derrick Henry trade rumors are dead. I think Saquon Barkley goes to Buffalo. Saquon Barkley, or not even Buffalo. Sorry, not Buffalo. What am I saying? I think Saquon Barkley is going to take the job. And I really do believe he'll take the job in the AFC West. But I think Saquon Barkley is going to be an LA Charger. I don't know what it is. I think Dexter Lawrence is on his way there as well. I think that's seriously at this point. I thought it'd be Buffalo Bills, but I thought Damian Harris going to have a big year in Buffalo, so let's not try to take that away from him. But yeah, I think he's a shoo-in to go to the LA Chargers. I think he takes Austin Eckler's job. I think Austin Eckler's on his way out from LA as well. There's been no real rumor of where he might end up going. But Eckler, I think, is going to end up going to the, and I think this may be a realistic trend here, but Eckler might end up going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I truly believe that. You know, I could be wrong on this one, but I think that's what's ended up happening. And I think, honestly, in my honest opinion, and I truly do believe this, that I think Jarvis Landry, Odell's buddy. I thought originally he was going to go to Baltimore, then I thought they have Nelson Aguilar there. But at the same time, I think we're going to see an Odell, a Jarvis Landry, and DeAndre Hopkins combination in Baltimore. I do. I still believe that. I thought the Giants at first would go there, but then I thought if Jones is there, but not Saquon Barkley, then Jarvis Landry ain't going to go there. He ain't going to go to San Francisco either. So I think if there's enough room. See, I don't think Lamar Jackson will get the contract that he wants. I think he'll get a good deal for it. But as far as a mega deal here that's desperate to keep this guy around, it's not happening. And if somehow C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young end up going to take place for Lamar Jackson, I think that deal still stands with getting Jarvis Landry to come there. I think of Jarvis Landry, if he's still in his prime and not past his prime, this is good for Baltimore. If you got to pass the prime Jarvis Landry, who is just, not himself, not the best, player on the field, not providing what he needs to provide, he's one and done in Baltimore, period. He was one and done in New Orleans. He's going to be one and done in Baltimore if he does not put up the numbers he should be putting out. And that's just my opinion. I don't know what anybody else thinks here, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, so that is really going to be about it here. I'm running out of things to talk about. Although I just got this report now about Keyshawn Johnson. This just came from the Spun. According to appearing on NFL Live, Keyshawn addressed the issue of whether a newly appointed Denver Broncos head coach Sean Payton can fix the starting quarterback issue with Russell Wilson and get him back to playing at a Pro Bowl level. Keyshawn responded that whether Payton can or not, he'll make a change in 2024 if Wilson fails to produce. To me, I'm just getting this story for the first time from the Spun. And I'm desperately trying to end this podcast now. Sean Payton here, I don't think it's going to make a change in 2024. I don't. I think the Jarrett Stidham stuff is all well intact. The only way I think Russell Wilson loses that job in Denver, legitimately, is Jarrett Stidham competes for the job. Russell Wilson gets like this miserable, bad injury. Bad to the point where we get to see fans, Viking fans, boo Brett Favre, and almost similar to this, what back in 2010 when this happened, where he was injured in that Chicago Bear game when he got concussed, and the fans were either cheering or booing at Brett Favre. Cheering not because the guy was all right, but because he wanted him off the field. But I think we're gonna get the exact same issue with Russell Wilson in 2023 if he is injured. It's either they'll boo the crap out of him or they'll cheer him. That's it. I don't know why I feel that way about that scenario, but I do. Russell Wilson does not belong in the Denver Broncos organization. He just doesn't. There's no wide receiving core that appreciates him there. He's not being a team player. He's a selfish player. But he tried to put on this facade that he's nice, when in reality he's not. So if somehow, some way, Wilson loses this job because of an injury, and I think somehow Jarrett Stidham gets his team into the playoff run in 2023, Russell Wilson's losing that job, and he's going to be released from that ridiculous, overly paid contract to a guy who waited too long to have his knees scoped. That's it. That's my take. And somehow there's a quarterback change at this point. If Stidham makes it to the team to the playoffs, great. Do I think the Denver Broncos win with him? No. In fact, this just makes the argument more likely to why Denver needs to draft a quarterback of their own. Because you could argue, oh, Sims is the answer. No, he's not. He's not looking at the number one QB. He's not. I mean, if you want to get Malik Cunningham in a draft at this point and try it out with him, and maybe he becomes the next Russell Wilson and actually becomes a better version of Russell Wilson, then fine, draft him. Otherwise, it makes no sense. It's just, it's unlikely for it to happen. Anyway, so that's all the time I have on the show. This was a really long show. I did not expect to go an hour and 25 minutes into the show, but I did. I will be back on here tomorrow. All the shows I'm going to be about tomorrow is at this point, I'll probably preview the Celtics game, maybe, if I get a chance to. Realistically, I'll be covering the Celtics game, post-game probably for the Celtics game tomorrow. So I'll cover that game tomorrow. I'll cover the other games if I get a chance to. Like I said, it's not a guarantee. This show was gonna mainly be about non-sports stories this week, like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air storyline this week about how the Aunt Viv character had it out for Will Smith, was a total cancer to the show, to the point where the Carlton character couldn't stand her, and actually blamed him for her career going down the tubes, basically burying her 6 feet under. Was going to talk about that tomorrow on the show. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be on the show tomorrow, to tell you the truth. I'm not sure because I will be out for most of the day tomorrow, working and then possibly go to a movie. Anyway, I was going to actually, you know what? I was going to talk about these things. I might just do more sports stuff tomorrow. I'll do the Red Sox game tonight. I'll cover that game from Friday tomorrow. I will cover the Celtics. The Celtics stuff. I'm not sure the Red Sox are even on tomorrow night. I believe they might be on tomorrow afternoon. Not 100% sure of what time that game's on tomorrow. I'm gonna get a look at it right now. Oh, that's the NBA. MLB. So tomorrow, the Red Sox are on tomorrow at 4:10. So I will try to. I guess I'll have to cover that Friday night game while the other game is on. So I'll basically talk about this might even be easier if I just do the show tomorrow. You're going to get 3 days of me tomorrow. So you're going to get the Red Sox coverage, news stories, them crapping a bet against the Rays, which I didn't even get enough to talk about here, which I will say this about the Red Sox at this point. They lost Adam Duvall to IL. And ever since they lost this guy, they're 0-4. If they are depending on a utility guy and Yoshida, who is struggling better, and an aging veteran in Justin Turner, if that's their answer for everything, instead of signing back Xander Bogaerts and maybe getting Turner involved in the whole thing and getting him into competing with Bogaerts and who the better players along with Devers, that's what you needed to do this offseason if you're the Red Sox. But, in reality, you screw that whole thing up as well. But anyway, so look, I will talk about the Red Sox tomorrow if I can. I'll do the post-game wrap for the Celtics if possible. I'll probably just cover the 2 games of the Red Sox if I can. I'll do Celtics coverage for the Saturday game and game 2 is Tuesday. So I guess the only thing I can really cover here out of this week is going to be the Bruins, which will probably be the Monday. I'll preview game 2, I guess. And that's that. I'll just play it by off air on that. AEW Dynamite this week was great. Raw this week was meh. So, not really much to say about the wrestling department, really. Like I try to cover WWE wrestling too much here. Although the WWE SummerSlam this will be in Detroit in Ford Field. They have not had a WWE event in Ford Field since WrestleMania 23 back in 2007. So that should be really great. That's going to do a lot of good business for WWE. And that's really about it. Now I'm going to finally sign up for the show. You can follow me on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. The usual here on the show and how it works out. I do again apologize for me botching earlier and dragging the show on for way too long. That seems to happen a lot here when I'm not focused. If it's, and most of the time I'm not. Sometimes I lose myself on this show. I will admit that. When I do go on and on and on for too long, that is just so freaking hot. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend here, guys. It's gonna be a nice weekend. I will be back on here tomorrow, covering mostly the Red Sox and the Celtics here. The Bruins stuff, I'll just have to wait till Tuesday to cover. So that whole episode will be based on Bruins and Celtics. It probably won't even be a longer show. I'm hoping tomorrow this won't be a long show either. So have a good night, guys. I'm out.